Greetings, gentle readers, and welcome once again to the vast and ominous comic book vault. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
Dan, welcome back to the program. It's so good to have you again.
Thanks for having me back. It's a pleasure to be back.
And you look absolutely smashing, may I say.
Thank you. It's good to sort of be on camera. And
yeah, here we are in video. It's exciting and high-tech. Here we go. Today, Dan and I are going to review something we've been itching to review for weeks now. We're going to talk about Omega Effect, which is now, which like all things with internet time, is now old and irrelevant and no one will care. But I'm kidding. But anyway, this is a few weeks old now. This was an event, Omega Effect, which went through just three issues, and it's Avenging Spider-Man, it's Punisher, and it's Daredevil, and it mostly comes out of stuff that was going on with Daredevil. It's mostly relevant to the mega crime stuff going on with the drive the information drive that came from an old Fantastic Four suit that it seems like Daredevil's been carrying around and trying to figure out what to do with forever now.
Yeah.
And that kind of propels us into this three-way team-up with he, Spider-Man, and Punisher. And so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Dan, the first question I have for you is how you felt about this being in three different issues, and if you thought maybe it should have just gone in Daredevil. Like, it being a team-up, did it have to be between three books?
I thought it was kind of cool the way they did it, because it was very reminiscent of like 80s Marvel sort of stuff that they used to do, where it was a short little contained crossover. It wasn't some big overblown event stuff. They do stuff like that all the time.
All the time.
Yeah, and I used to always like that kind of stuff. The only real little nitpick that I can think of now that I'm really thinking about it is I don't know if it was right to have the story cross over into Avenging Spider-Man, because it's not really what that book is supposed to be. He's not really doing anything with... Well, I suppose Daredevil's a card-carrying Avenger right now, but it's not really Avengers-related, and it wasn't really... I don't know. I feel like it should have maybe been an Amazing Spider-Man, but there was probably a story going on at the time, so...
Yeah, I mean, I thought the same thing, and I kind of imagine that part of that was just trying to get people to try Avenging, because it's still a relatively new series. It was only in issue 6 at this point, so that's probably what they were doing, was trying to come up with more ways to jumpstart that book. But you're right. I mean, it doesn't really have anything to do with Avengers. I'm with you. It should have been an Amazing, but Slott's doing pretty much every story in that now, so.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what I like about this, by the way, is that we didn't have to have three different writer and artist teams on it. That was the problem that you and I had with Circle of Four, with Venom, was that it just kept changing teams constantly, and it was really jarring looking at all the different art.
Oh, yeah, definitely. This one was great, having Chichetto draw all of it, and I just loved the way he drew all three of these characters.
Me too, and can I say, if Chichetto was to just start drawing Spider-Man, if he was like, if he, and nothing against Ramos, but if he was to just take over and draw Spider-Man as much as Ramos, that would be totally fine with me. Like, I wish he was drawing Spider-Man all the time. He's amazing.
Yeah, same here. I mean,
I was blown away when opening this first issue, and looking at how he's drawing Spider-Man, and I was like, I have not seen Spider-Man drawn like this in a long time. Frankly, I'm not sure if I've ever seen Spider-Man drawn exactly like this. It's pretty fresh, I think.
Yeah, it's a lot. It reminded me sort of like a Steve Ditko-esque Spider-Man without the lighthearted Stan Lee sensibilities that were there when he was...
It's a little bit edgier than that, yeah.
Yeah. It almost reminds me of a sort of... It's not as... The anatomy's a little bit more realistic, but it reminded me sort of McFarlane.
Yeah, me too. And it's maybe a strange thing to say, a Ditko McFarlane cross, but yeah, it is definitely similar to that. So how did you feel about Punisher being thrown in this mix? I kind of dug it, because I liked the idea of having to work with these guys having to work with Punisher, and he having kind of a legitimate reason to want to get his hands on the mega crime drive.
Yeah, I thought it was cool, because throwing Punisher in here. I haven't been reading the Rucka Punisher book, and I kind of want to, based on how much I like this, but...
I've read the first couple issues, and it's solid. I'm just not enough of a Punisher fan to keep on it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a big Punisher guy generally either, but I just really enjoyed this. Just the way that the Punisher was written in this, or not even written. He just wasn't written at all, which was kind of cool. You're not very in the Punisher's head at all in this, which I've heard is consistent with how the book is written most of the time, where it's sort of all the other characters in the story playing off of the Punisher and his state of mind, his philosophy, all that kind of stuff. And that was very central to what this story was trying to do, sort of Matt Murdock really atoning for a mistake he thought he made with Frank, and seeing the Punisher's philosophy in someone that could be redeemed with his partner and stuff like that. I thought it was really cool how they used the Punisher's philosophy as sort of one of the and how effective it is versus ineffective with Daredevil and Punisher's view on things. And
that's a great point, yeah. There's a point in this, without spoiling too much, because I do think people should read this, and I don't really want to give a lot away on this one.
Right.
Dan and I seem to kind of pick and choose when we're going to spoil and when we're not, but I think this one is a small enough, inexpensive enough story, just 3 issues, people ought to read it. But yeah, I really like that Daredevil, at a point in this, makes kind of a major mistake, and Punisher wouldn't have made that mistake. And I think that's really interesting, looking at their 2 philosophies, because Daredevil and Spider-Man keep forcing Frank through this constantly, almost ad nauseum. You can't kill people when you're working with us. It's not going to happen. Don't do it. And he's having to use rubber bullets and stuff like that. And he hates it. And you can tell just looking at his face. This sucks. I hate this.
Yeah.
And then and then Daredevil makes kind of a crucial mistake at one point, and you kind of get this. And I love that Punisher doesn't even comment on it. You can just kind of tell that there's this kind of thing going in his head where he's like, "Wouldn't it happen if you'd listen to me? Wouldn't it happen?"
Right. And that's the interesting a thing about this too, where the way the characters are written here, you can tell that they have a past, and you don't need to know what their past is to sort of get that vibe from them and their relationship.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is awesome.
And their past with each other, too.
Right.
They don't go real in depth, and, this is why Spider-Man and Daredevil are so pally, and this is why Punisher and Daredevil, have a thing. I mean, they talk about it a little bit, you get a sense of it. But it's much more about, who these people are, rather than trying to. It's not too mythosy. I think that's the thing I really like about it. And I think you hit it earlier, that it feels like older Marvel crossovers. They don't get bogged down with information. We get to really just enjoy this adventure that they go on.
Right, and the only real criticism I'd have to make as a crossover for this is that I don't think it had enough of an effect on the 2 of the books it was crossing into, because I know the Punisher book, having the partner, what happened with the partner in here definitely would have affected that, and I haven't seen how it affected it, but I feel like the Daredevil and the Spider-Man books weren't even affected that much at all by this.
By the way, I liked her a lot. I thought she was really interesting.
Me too.
Although I did kind of wonder, what is her name? What is her name? They keep calling her. Is it Cole? Is that
Cole or Alves? Cole was her name, and then she was her husband on her wedding day was killed. So
her whole backstory is I think she's an ex-cop. Isn't that right?
Yeah, something to that effect.
And she got married, and 2 hours after she got married, her family gets killed. And I'm not giving anything away, because I'm sure this is all in the Punisher book. But 2 hours later, her husband and everybody else gets killed except for her. That's in the wedding party, I think. And it's really sad. I mean, I kind of like her. I kind of like her backstory there. And she's got this whole motif, by the way, in this, where she thinks that nobody can possibly be a crime fighter, a good, effective crime fighter, unless they have that exact kind of past. And I think that that's a really interesting perspective, because a lot of these characters have that past, but they don't talk like that. And I think that's interesting. But anyway,
right.
One thing I wondered, though, is that she keeps insisting that people call her Alves because she took her husband's last name. And I don't know why everybody's a jerk to her and they won't just call her what she wants to be called. It seems kind of jerky to me. I'm like that's not fair,
Yeah, that is kind of strange.
I didn't understand that at all.
Yeah, me either. But one of the things you were talking about when you were talking about how she has this mentality about how you can't be an effective crime fighter unless you have a tragic past. Mm-hmm. My favorite scene in the whole thing was that conversation specifically where she was talking to Matt Murdock, and I thought it was really interesting where he's the guy that's the argument on the other side of that. because typically, with like
he gets offended.
Yeah, like
he gets outright offended by that.
And he's the guy that's classically been defined by the relationship he had with his father before he died.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought that was really telling of...
And I bought it.
Yeah, I thought it was really telling of the direction that Wade's taken with this character. You know what I mean?
But yeah, to wrap up, because I think we've really covered this well, and I don't think this needs to be super long. I think that you're absolutely right that it doesn't have enough of an effect, especially on Daredevil, because it's all about the drive with mega crime, and we've been dealing with that for issues and issues with Daredevil. And honestly, I gotta say that when this was over, I was sort of hoping that would be all wrapped up, and it's not, without giving too much away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a big deal that it's not wrapped up in a nice bow or anything. It kind of feels like it wasn't even, it didn't even need to happen. I will say that you could totally skip this and not miss much with Daredevil.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of strange.
I mean, they did that on purpose.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It was just really weird that they set the stakes so high for this and said that this was going to be like the thing to end the story, and then it just kind of didn't. I don't know. I just thought that was really strange. But
other than that, it's definitely worth reading. And if nothing else, for Chichetto's art, have you read much of him?
I haven't, to be honest with you.
Me neither. I need to look at his library and see what he's got, because I loved this.
Yeah, I think he's drawn some other stuff that I've read before. It might have been Spider-Man stuff now that I think of it, but I'm not sure.
Well, Dan, do you have any final thoughts? Anything we missed?
I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty well. It's just Wade and Rucka doing what they do. It's quality stuff. I mean, you can't go wrong with those two guys working on anything, really.
No, I gotta tell you, I miss Rucka on Batman. I do. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for watching the Comic Vault, and remember that the Comic Vault is a vast and wondrous wonderland of comic books that you can both buy things from and donate things to. If you want to see what we have right now for sale on from the Comic Vault, you can go to wearegeeksnotnerds.com and click on the Comic Vault. So predictable. And you can buy things right there straight from eBay. You can also donate things if you'd like anything for us to review. Probably me. Because Dan doesn't live here. You can go to Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. You can send us stuff there. And thanks as always for watching. Thanks again for being with me, Dan, and we'll be back with more stuff for you very soon. I'm hoping to have Dan back regularly once again. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Dan.
And we'll see you later.
Bye, guys.